My brother accidentally sent me a video where our parents referred to me as a burden, so I decided to give them exactly what they wanted. It was an ordinary Thursday, one of those days that seemed to promise nothing out of the ordinary. I was in my apartment, a cozy little space that I had made my own, adorned with pictures that were haphazardly taped to the walls and a couch I had inherited from my grandfather. I had been living independently for a couple of years after finishing college and landing a decent job at a marketing firm. It wasn't the life I had always dreamed of, but it paid the bills and allowed me time to binge-watch shows or hang out with friends. My routine was straightforward: wake up, brew coffee, go to work, come home, and repeat. On weekends, without fail, I would visit my parents and my younger brother, Leo. We were a typical family, or so I believed. That day, after a grueling shift spent sifting through reports that nobody ever read, I collapsed onto the couch with my phone in hand. I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, watching funny cat videos, when a message from Leo popped up. My brother is 20 years old, a lovable goofball who always seems to find himself in some sort of trouble, whether it's missing the bus because he was too busy playing video games or spending his part-time earnings on the latest gadgets. The message read, "You have to see this. You won't believe it," and it came with a 47-second video. I assumed it would be one of his usual silly antics, like when he filmed our dog chasing its tail and added dramatic music, so I hit play without expecting anything serious. What I heard next froze me in place. The video was blurry at first, as if Leo had recorded it without realizing it. There was background noise, the clinking of dishes and the hum of the old refrigerator in our parents' kitchen. Then I heard my mom's voice, clear and cutting as always. "If only he weren't always around, everything would be easier. He's a burden, just a weight we don't need." My dad grunted in response, as he often did when he was watching sports and didn't want to engage. "Yeah, and with that money he claims as his, if he would just leave, we could finally have some peace, and the business could thrive." The video abruptly ended with Leo whispering, "Oh no," and cutting off. I sat there, phone still in hand, staring at the black screen as if it would somehow explain what I had just witnessed. My heart raced, but I couldn't tell if it was anger, sadness, or a mix of both. A burden. The word stung like 1,000 needles. It wasn't the first time my parents had made me feel this way, but they had never been so blunt. They had always been indirect, my mom complaining about the electricity bill when I lived with them, or my dad lamenting that if it weren't for me, he would have his business running smoothly. But this was different. This was raw, direct, and it came from a video that Leo, the scatterbrain, had sent me by mistake. He probably intended to share it with his girlfriend, Mia, for a laugh, but it ended up in my inbox. I got up from the couch and began pacing the living room, trying to process everything. I recalled all the times I had helped them, like when I lent them $10,000 to fix the roof after a storm, which they never paid back, or when I spent months supporting my dad's business, a car repair shop that never took off because he preferred chatting with customers rather than working. I had always said yes because we were family, and now I was a burden. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling and listening to the whir of the fan I had never bothered to fix. At first, I wanted to call them, to yell, to demand an explanation, but then I thought, what would be the point? If that's how they felt, would a fight change anything? That's when a wild idea struck me, and at that moment, it felt perfect. If they saw me as a problem, I would give them what they wanted, my absence. And if they cared so much about money, I would take that away too. Let them experience life without me. The next day, Friday, I called in sick to work, claiming I had a fever. No one asked too many questions. My boss was the type who preferred to stay out of personal matters. I went to the bank and withdrew everything I had, $35,000 I had saved for a trip I never took, plus about $5,000 still in the joint account with my parents. We had opened that account when I started working because my mom insisted it was more practical for managing expenses. It was a mistake, I thought, as I stared at my phone, which was now buzzing incessantly. My mom wouldn't stop crying. The sheer volume of messages and calls caused my phone to start freezing, the screen flickered, and the ringtones blended into an unbearable cacophony. For a moment, I half expected it to actually break. My phone is going to explode, I muttered to myself, laughing alone in the cabin. While it wasn't a literal explosion, it felt like my family was collapsing under the pressure of their own emotions. I quickly turned it off before it could completely malfunction and tossed it onto the bed. With the silence returning to the room and the soothing sound of the river in the background, I realized this was just the beginning. My parents must have found the note by now, and Leo was likely panicking over his blunder. As for me, I had no idea what was coming next, but something told me it wouldn't be boring. That night, after having a cheese sandwich I bought at the local store for dinner, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned my phone back on. The screen lit up slowly, as if it were struggling to wake from a deep slumber, and immediately notifications began pouring in again, more than 60 this time. My mom had called 25 times, my dad 18, and Leo continued to send desperate messages. There were voice notes too. One from my mom, her voice breaking, said, "Juan, I don't know what I did to you, but please forgive me. Don't leave like this. We'll lose the house if we don't pay the next installment." Another from Leo, almost shouting, "I made a mistake. I know, but don't do this to me. Answer. I need you." My dad didn't send a voice note, but his messages were short and blunt, as always, when he was anxious. I stared at the phone for what felt like an eternity, the cold beer next to me forgotten. A lump formed in my throat, but alongside it was an unrelenting anger. Where was that worry when they spoke about me like I was an old piece of furniture ready to be tossed? And Leo apologizing, he didn't choose those words, but he did choose to record them and share them as if it were a joke. I turned the phone off again and shoved it into a drawer, as if that would also hide how I felt. I wasn't ready to respond yet. I needed time to think, to decide if this was just punishment or something more significant. I decided to step outside for some fresh air, and on my way, I stumbled upon an open bar. I went in, ordered a beer, and sat in a corner, trying to lose myself in the haze of smoke and the voices of the few patrons scattered around. But I couldn't escape my thoughts. As I stared at the condensation on the bottle in my hand, a raspy voice pulled me from my reverie. "You're the one from the newspaper, right?" I didn't look up at first, but I could see a skinny guy who resembled a stray dog, sporting a crooked smile. He stood next to my table, holding a glass of cheap wine. "I saw you on the front page, the missing person. What are you doing here? Did you escape from the law or what?" My heart leaped into my throat. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, trying to sound calm, but my voice trembled. The guy laughed loudly, as if I had just told the funniest joke. "Don't play dumb. The whole town is talking about you. They say your mom was crying on local TV this afternoon, that your sister is offering money to anyone who finds you." Leo was offering money? The ground felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. I threw some bills on the table and bolted from the bar as if I were being chased. I rushed back to the cabin and turned on the old TV. There it was, a local news report featuring my mom, disheveled and tear-streaked, holding up a picture of me. "Please, if anyone sees him, let us know. We don't know if he's alive or if he's been kidnapped. Juan, if you can hear me, come back. We love you." Then Leo appeared, pale and with a cracking voice. "I'm offering everything I have, my savings, whatever it takes. I just want my brother back." The camera cut to my dad, standing behind them with his arms crossed and his eyes fixed on the ground. He didn't say anything, but his silence screamed volumes. I stood there in front of the TV, feeling torn apart. I wanted to scream, cry, break something. Did they love me after everything they had said, or was it just guilt? Fear of how they would look in doing here? "How did you find me?" I stammered, my heart racing. The policeman, pointing to Don Raul, replied, "This gentleman called the police station. He said he recognized you, and your family was offering money for information. He brought them straight here." I glanced at Don Raul, who was grinning like he had just hit the jackpot. "Give me my share," he insisted. "Your sister said everything I have, and I want my money." "Is this about money?" I shot back, my voice rising. "It's always about the money." Matthias raised her head, her face pale. "No, Juan, I swear it wasn't like that." "Well, yes, but not in the way you think. We wanted you to come back, and I thought that by offering money, someone would find you faster." "Shut up, Anna," my mom snapped, taking another step closer. "Listen to me. You have to give us back that money. Without it, they'll take away the house in 2 weeks. The workshop is bankrupt. We have nothing. You can't do this to us. My dad finally spoke, his voice dry and weary, the tone he used when he was fed up. You gave us a needless scare, but it's over now. Bring the money, and let's be done with it. We can't go on like this. I stared at them, the flashlight still in my hand as if I were ready to hit someone. The policeman scratched his head, clearly uncomfortable, while Don Raul kept rubbing his hands together, waiting for his cut. I felt the air leave my lungs, the room closing in around me. That's it? I said, my voice shaking with fury. You came for the money, not for me? Of course we came for you too, my mom said, but her eyes darted back to the backpack, and I knew she was lying. You're our son, but we need that money, Juan. Without it, we're finished. And what about me? I yelled, throwing the flashlight onto the floor with such force that it shattered. You called me a burden. You said I ruined your lives. I left because you don't love me, you just want what I give you. My dad stepped forward, his expression hardening. Don't be dramatic, Juan. You've always helped us, and we appreciate it. But now you've left us with nothing. Bring the money, and we'll talk about whatever you want later. Matthias tried to approach, hands raised as if to calm me down. Juan, I'm sorry about the video, really. But listen to Mom and Dad. Without you, without your money, we are lost. I looked at the three of them standing there, resembling creditors rather than family, and something snapped inside me. Don Raul was still beside them, muttering about his reward, and the policeman cleared his throat, clearly wanting to leave. Rage surged through me like fire, but there was also a weariness I hadn't expected. I had wanted them to feel my absence, but I had never imagined they would search for me like I was a lost wallet. You know what? I said, walking over to the backpack and picking it up forcefully. It's over. I'm not coming back, and I'm not giving you a penny. Let them take your house and your workshop and sink to the bottom of the pit. No, my mom screamed, rushing toward me, but the policeman stopped her with a raised hand. Don Raul turned red, shouting, Hey! I found you! You owe me something. You don't owe me anything. I roared, and I stormed out of the cabin. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold and sharp. I glanced back at my family one last time. Enjoy your peace without me and without my money. I ran to my car, the backpack slung over my shoulder, while my mom yelled my name and my dad said something to Anna that I couldn't hear. Don Raul came running out, still yelling about his reward, but I didn't look back. I got into the car, started the engine, and drove off aimlessly, my hands shaking on the wheel and my eyes blurred with tears. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't go back. I decided to head to my apartment. After all, my parents would never get the money they so desperately wanted. I arrived near dawn, after 2 hours of driving with a blank mind. The building was silent, the hallway lights flickering as always. I climbed the stairs, opened the door with trembling hands, and entered. The smell of old coffee from the armchair I inherited from my grandmother welcomed me as if nothing had happened. I locked the door, placed the backpack. I drank some beers and laughed for a couple of hours until she mentioned a new cologne she had just bought. She said she wanted to win over a lot of guys with it. I took a drag from my cigarette as she opened the bottle, asking me to smell it to see if I liked it. When she brought the bottle close to my face, the scent hit me hard, sweet and chemical, nothing like any cologne I had ever encountered. I tried to step back, but my head began to spin, the room tilted, my legs went weak, and a thick dizziness clouded my vision. Anna? I stammered, falling onto the sofa as everything became blurry. Don't worry, she said, her voice distant, as if coming from another world. Just rest. I saw her move quickly, grabbing my backpack from the floor, and then everything went black. I woke up with a pounding headache, splashing cold water on my face. Little by little, the fog cleared, and I understood what had happened. That wasn't cologne, it was scopolamine, a drug that knocks you out and leaves you defenseless. Anna hadn't come to talk or apologize, she had come to rob me, and she did it on my parents' orders. Unable to convince me to give them the money, they had sent my own sister to take it from me like a thief. I leaned on the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror, pale, with dark circles under my eyes and a fury burning inside me. The backpack was gone, along with the $50,000 that represented my escape, my revenge. But this wasn't going to end like this. They had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I splashed more water on my face and dried it with an old towel. I walked around the apartment, still unsteady. The sofa was disheveled, my cell phone was still on the table, and the closed door mocked me. I sat down, taking deep breaths, trying to calm down. I couldn't let this end like this. They had won this round, but I wasn't going to sit around crying. I needed to get back what was mine, or at least make them pay for what they had done. I checked what I had left, my wallet with $200 in cash and a debit card with about $3,000 that I hadn't touched. The cell phone was at half battery, full of notifications I didn't want to read. I didn't have much, but I had my wits, and that was going to be enough. My parents and Anna weren't geniuses, they were greedy and clumsy, and that was something I could use. I grabbed my cell phone and checked the messages. This time, carefully. Among my mom's pleas and my dad's curt texts, there was one from Anna that caught my attention. She had sent it right after leaving at 6:15 a.m. "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be like this. See you at home." At home. That meant my parents' house, not my apartment. That gave me a clue, she had probably run straight to them with the backpack. I called her number, but she didn't answer. I didn't expect her to. Instead, I dialed my parents' landline, the one they hardly ever used but which still worked. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. "Hello?" It was my mom, her voice tense as if she was expecting bad news. "Where's my money?" I said without greeting, keeping my voice low but firm. There was a long silence. "Juan? Is that you?" "Are you okay?" she asked, but she didn't sound concerned about me, just nervous, as if she feared what was coming. "Where's my money?" I repeated louder this time. "I know what you did. Anna drugged me and took the backpack. Don't give me that crap." Another silence, then a sigh. "Juan, listen," she said in that tone she uses when she wants to sound reasonable. "We didn't want it to come to this, but we are desperate. The house, the workshop, without that money, we lose everything. Anna just did what we asked her to." "What you asked her to?" I yelled, gripping the phone so tight my fingers hurt. "You drugged me, my own sister, and all for money." "It's not just money," she said, but her voice cracked, and I knew she was lying. "It's our life, Juan. You helped us before, and now you left us with nothing. What did you want us to do? Love me?" I said, my voice trembling. "To see me as something more than an ATM? But it's clear I'm not that to you."